This is Mitch, and I've bought a house about every 4 to 5 days in or about my hometown of San Antonio, Texas for over 2 decades. That's 100 houses a year, approximately 2,000 houses in my career and counting. And that does not make me the end all when it comes to real estate investing, but it does put me in a position of a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge, and a guy who's done a lot of things right and certainly done a ton of things wrong. So I'm trying to lend that experience to you. And today's episode is how to invest in storage units. You know, I have a few of those facilities myself. Stay tuned as I talk to Aj Osborne, and we're going to talk about how you start out in this business and what's important and how lucrative the storage business can be. Again, I can speak from experience because I started in 1991 with 15 little boat stalls that were rented out that were directly across the street from a state park entrance to a lake. And that's where I discovered the ease and the beauty and the magic of storage units and using them as a cash flow vehicle. I went on to build those 15 units into 13 locations and over 1,300 doors. Those 1,300 doors owe me about $100 per month, every month, month in and month out. And that's why I'm so excited to share with you my interview with Aj Osborne, because I believe that storage units is the perfect forever cash flow strategy, because this is something that you rent and it will go on forever until you decide you want to sell it or walk away from it. So I chose seller financing as my forever cash flow strategy. Everything I did, everything I flipped, everything I owner financed, everything was all so that I could get enough money to buy into this self-storage forever cash flow strategy so that one day I could just walk away and they would keep producing money for as long as I owned them. All right, here we go with Aj Osborne. I'm real excited to talk to Aj. How you doing?
Doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing good. So let's start out with this. So talk about your beginnings.
I was very used to businesses, and I did B2B sales. I consulted with businesses and focused a lot on revenue management. So I wanted to go into an asset class that gave me more levers to control the revenue. And I felt very limited on certain types of real estate assets. And so for me, and it's different for everybody, but for me, self-storage made a lot of sense because operationally speaking, I could control a lot more. I could do marketing, revenue management, dynamic pricing. I could sell insurance. I could sell boxes, moving trucks. There's a lot of ways for me to improve the revenue of that business. And in the early 2000s, that was kind of my philosophy. Self-storage isn't a real estate asset. It's a business that has all the benefits of real estate. And under that kind of philosophical approach, we would buy real estate assets, turn them into well-run businesses, and the income would explode. And alongside with the wealth, we'd refinance into non-recourse loans, take the money and do it again. And we did this to over 100 million.
Okay, so did you start out flipping houses or some other kind of, or did you go straight into storage business?
Straight into storage. I knew that's where we wanted to be. And so we started small, right? And third, fourth, fifth tier markets. I mean, I started in a city next to the Canadian border that no one's ever heard of in Idaho, Bonners Ferry. It's like 5,000 people, maybe less. I don't know. It's like, there's a gas station, right?
But the thing is, that's a product that you could afford or that you could fathom achieving at the time. So that's the same with my storage places. I started out, even in the houses, I started out in the cheapest houses I could find, even though you learn later, it's just as much work to get a more expensive house but your payday is bigger. Everything happens to me kind of by accident, but when it's a bad thing that happens, I say, well, how do I stop that from happening? And then you evolve. And then when it's a really good thing that happens, you go like, okay, how do I make that happen more often? So I accidentally bought 15 units in front of a park where they parked boats, and I didn't have any money, but they wanted $8,000 for it. And I did the math and said, well, I ought to get my money back in 18 months. I didn't have the money, but I got a credit card and I went and got some money on my credit card and I went and bought it and I just sent everything in. then I started noticing, I said, this is pretty cool because there's not a hot water heater. There's not a air conditioner, the things I was buying. It was pretty damn simple. It had a dirt floor, chicken wire dividers, and corrugated aluminum, and 2 doors, and one on the right and one on the left. And you back your boat in and you close it, and they would leave, and they would send me a rent check every month. And I thought, this might be better than houses because they don't pay me. I keep this guy's boat, and and I'm not displacing a family. I'm not having to worry about throwing grandma out on the street or anything. It's just a toy that they have. That if they don't pay me, I'm going to take their toy. It's a lot different than a house. And I decided early on that I was going to make my money by doing one-time cash events like fix and flips or wholesales. I was going to create cash flow by doing seller financing, and then, but all with other people's money. And then when I had money, I was going to put it in the forever cash scenario, which was for me storages too. And I said, I'm going to put my money into storages, which is the only rental I ever want to own. I don't want to own strip centers and commercial businesses because I've seen what happens in up and down economies. I didn't want, houses were good, apartments okay, but man, you're dealing with people in a real intricate part of their life, like where they live, where their kids go to school, if it's going to rain on them or not, and so.
And the laws, you live in Texas and I live in Idaho, which are friendly, but most of the United States, you're talking about if you're in, half the United States, they got laws that literally say
you can't get them out.
Yeah. And then 2, you get that was something I never wanted to be involved in and I knew that if I didn't want to evict a single mom with 3 kids out in the rain, then I shouldn't own it. That was my thing. If I can't do that, I have no business doing that. And so self-storage for me, and 2, self-storage was easier to scale for me, right? We're buying bankrupt super Kmart's, turning them into storage facilities. We're buying them all over the place. We've got, just thousands and thousands of doors. And there's just a lot I could do. And there was a lot of, once again, these levers. I could always figure out how to make the same asset make more money. And I didn't see that in a lot of ways, in a lot of other asset classes. And the better I got at what I did, the more money I could make, right? And so for me, I love it. It's the best investment vehicle. And the economics behind it makes sense. That's the thing that a lot of people don't understand. This isn't about people storing junk. The economics of the United States of people actually owning homes and actually having bigger homes, right? The economics to make housing more expensive are in full force and always will be. The economics to make consumerism and dispersing and dividing business, last mile, point of sale, and so the things businesses have to do, those are all in favor of storage too. So we can own more, we can do more, but we need more space. Businesses are decentralizing. They need limited space, but they don't want to pay for the high cost of real estate. They don't want to be in long-term leases. This all adds to storage and where it's going.
I hope you're enjoying this segment with AJ Osborne about self-storage units. Please, let's pause for just a second. If you like what we're doing here, we're being helpful or inspirational or shortcutting some of the things that you would have had to go straight through, then please hit that like button and that share button. Let people know that we're out here and let them know that we're doing a good job. Also, if you haven't subscribed, there's no better time than right now. All right, back to AJ Osborne and my interview with him. So you start out, what was your storage facility? How big or small? What was the first one like?
It was really small. It was
mine was 15. Mine was 15 units in front of an entrance to a Comel Park, which was on the lake where I live, and the fishermen would store their little fishing boats so they didn't have to drag them around all the time.
Bingo. It was literally the place where we were. There's more grizzly bears than there are people there in Idaho. So it was almost dirt. It was, and from there we just kept moving up. And 2, I really don't want to make it more complicated than it is. And I think that's one of the big problems people have. They overthink it. Look at the numbers. The numbers don't lie. right? If it's a good deal, it's a good deal. In fact, too, a lot of people don't understand it. This is the weird thing. You talk about this mentality part, and everybody's like, well, when I get big, I'll go start buying big assets. Well, I got to tell you right now, it is way harder for me to find an 80,000 square foot, $6 million storage facility that's a good deal than it is if I went to find a 5,000 square foot storage in a third tier market. That's easy. That's easy to find a good deal doing that. If you're starting out, there's way more opportunity because you're not competing with all the big guys.
I was buying the mom and pops, class B, class C, and then I was improving or changing them, putting in an electronic gate, putting up a camera or whatever, just bringing it up a little bit. The thing was, at the time in my mindset, and of course, you don't just go from zero to a $10 million facility. I mean, being real, but it's actually easier to borrow $1 million than it is to borrow 100,000. If the because banks don't want to dick around with a $100,000 loan. No. They want a $2 or $3 million loan. They go, okay, you got my attention. What do you got?
The bigger the money is, the easier it's to get. The smaller the deal is, the more opportunity there is to find them, because opportunity concentrates at those, right? You get low cap rates, and because there's more financing and because more people want bigger deals. So when I look at it and you start talking about financing and buying these smaller deals and facilities, I say you go to community banks, you go to local city banks, you go to credit unions, because they have a very good understanding of the area you're in and the true value of what you're doing. They're looking at you, the asset, and they have to deploy money in that market. So they have to do it. And so like when we started out and when we started looking and we were buying assets, the big national banks were like, this is out in the middle of nowhere. Are you kidding? Do people even live there? And then we go talk to the Citibank or the local credit union, and they're like, hey, that's a great piece of property you got there. It's on the main road into the city, right? It's like you're having two totally different conversations. And so you just got to remember that there's a model, and two, that local people, so if you're in a small city and you have a doctor that lives in that city and a dentist, they want to deploy money next to them. They want to deploy it close by. Now, they don't want to go do all the work, and they don't want to run a storage facility.
But they understand it. Like, they know if you're right in the middle of the growth pattern in this city, in another 5 years or 10 years, it's going to be right there. I mean, that's a good asset.
Exactly.
Storages have been famous for just holding land until the city got to it. I mean, that's
how they started. It was a land hold. Yeah. They were literally just holding land until somebody was going to develop apartments, a hotel, or something that was actually worth something, as they used to think. And now they're incredibly valuable. But it's, when you start out small, like I say, look at your tenants. Who's renting out of that storage facility? Because if they got a nice boat and if they're renting, they have some disposable income. I'm sure your tenants understand the value of it. Maybe they'll lend you the money, right?
That's some of my favorite tenants was the boat storage ones, because, the boats these days are $80, $90, $120, $180,000, and they're parked in there. And if they don't make their payment on your storage, or they don't, you're locking up this boat. And the bank, a lot of times these things are financed, and the bank has to pay the back rent before they can get their collateral out of your storage, so it's kind of you got two payers ultimately, maybe. It's a relatively simple business to sub out. It's not rocket science, or I like to say it's not rocket surgery. Even someone like me can do it. Only thing I would tell anybody, that was going in new or anything, just make sure you have some wrongful disposal insurance, just in case you get rid of the wrong unit, or someone accuses you of getting rid of the wrong unit, or you don't foreclose right and you get rid of something. That would be the only thing. Because one time I said, hey, I need you to empty out, unit number 9, and he thought I said 5. That's why they say niner, and that's why they say niner in the military, right? Because 9 gets confused with 5. I told him, empty out unit 9, and he went and emptied out unit 5, and of course, now John Lennon's one photo of whatever worth $1 million was in there, and there was 27 Rolexes in there, and there was a gold thing off of King Tut's
exactly
tomb, was in there.
You make a mistake, and that unit had $1 billion in it.
Yeah. I hope you enjoyed my interview with Aj Osborne, and right now I'd like to offer you a free ebook. This ebook is very powerful, and I've used these concepts with retirement plans, self-directed retirement plans, and retirement plans with checkbook control for years. And they have made a huge difference in my retirement plans. So please get your free ebook from Tax Free Future at this link right here. Just go to 1000houses.com/free-stuff. And then on that homepage right there, when you scroll up and down, click on the link that says taxfreefuture.com free ebook. And that'll get it to you digitally downloaded just like that. And you will learn a ton about how the rich get richer, because they know the laws and they know how to legally avoid paying taxes that the average person might have to pay, because you know what they did? The average person didn't download this book and learn the rules. So learn the rules and get ahead.